Mindset, a set of assumptions, methods, or notions activated in response to a given task. Simple enough, right? In some sense, a mindset is basically a series of ideas and rules of thumb that you trust in, which to a certain point kind of guide your behavior. And if you watch yourself closely, you'll often realize that depending on the mindset you have, the way you act changes, the things you do change, and thus the final outcome changes as well. And as far as I can tell, you could make the same argument with regards to the USMLE, in the sense that the rules of thumb and ideas you believe in when studying will ultimately change how you approach learning, and that will in turn have an impact on your performance and score. And that's precisely why I wanted to do this video, because I think there are 3 rules of thumb that constantly guided my day-to-day study, that acted sort of like reminders in the back of my head and guided me in the right direction. And well, I thought I could share them with you guys in this video. Hopefully they can prove to be of some value to you. So yeah, without further ado, let's begin. Okay, the first rule of thumb is that the most important part about question banks are in fact the questions. And what I mean by that is that contrary to popular belief, in my opinion, the magic behind questions does not lie in the feedback you receive after you click the answer, but rather in the few seconds you take to actually answer the question. I think that's the case because as far as I'm concerned, that's the only part of your study where you actually have the opportunity to practice your thinking process. You know, to not only fit a bunch of facts inside of your head as you do with books and videos, but rather to learn how to use those facts properly. And that's an invaluable skill because in case you haven't noticed, USMLE questions are really complicated. They are hard, they force you to handle multiple concepts at the same time. They often involve 3 to 4 logical jumps, and so solving these questions requires not only facts, but also a skill. That's why you constantly miss questions on topics you have already reviewed, because it's not just about the facts. So try to take your time solving the questions, especially when you face difficult ones. Try to pause and think, and don't rush it. If you rush it, you are dispensing with the most important part, the one that actually makes you a better test taker. Now, I have a lot of videos detailing a few strategies to guide you in that regards in case you're interested, but more often than not, it's as simple as just asking yourself, what the hell does that mean? For instance, just the other day I was solving a few UWorld questions with a friend of mine and we stumbled upon a difficult case. She was confused and wanted to just pick whatever because she felt like, nah, I just don't know. Let's just see the answer and get it over with. I said to her, no. Wait a second and think. There it says that the patient is put on 100% oxygen and his SAT did not increase. What does it mean that your alveoli are fully filled with oxygen and yet the saturation still doesn't increase? She went, oh well, the blood must be bypassing the alveoli. Okay, does that help you narrow down the differential? Well, in fact, yes, because etc. And she ended up getting the question right. And that happened like 10 times in the blog. And I always told her, look, did you notice how the only thing I did was to stop you and made you think? That was literally all I did. And your score went up by about 20% just because of that. If you learn to do that without me, you have an instantaneous 20% jump. But you need to stop treating the questions as if the most important part is the explanation, because the most important part is the question. Okay, the second rule of thumb is that you don't need to know everything. And I've actually talked about this in depth in the video about the USMLE game and the 3 things that people learn too late in their USMLE prep. But I think it's worth saying it one more time. You don't need to know everything. As an example, in the blog I solved with my friend, one question popped up that had something to do with monoclonal antibodies. And in the explanation, a huge ass chart popped up explaining the nomenclature of monoclonal antibodies. You know, like if it has this letter, then it is an antibody against this target. And if it has this other letter, then it came from mice or from humans or is humanized. But it was a big ass chart, like something that would take you a few flashcards to fully memorize it. And I said to her, forget about it. You literally never have a question ask you if this monoclonal antibody came from humans or from mice. So don't waste your time trying to memorize it. Instead, devote your efforts in memorizing the actual USMLE script, the stuff that actually shows up in the test. And I reckon that delineating the exact line that says you have to know this but not this is rather hard to draw, but as you stack questions under your belt, you start to see which things are truly important, which things are peripheral, and which things are just curious facts that never actually pop up. But in the meantime, just keep that in mind and try to see for yourself which is which through the question banks. That is the whole point of the rule, to keep your eyes open. Okay, and finally, the last piece of mindset that helped me succeed in the exam was to train myself not to be the one that remembers the questions, but rather to be the one who can answer any question. because that is a common mistake I see people make when prepping for this exam. They believe that if they just manage to memorize the question banks and the assessments, let's say by going through UWorld 4 times, they are set. And that's actually not true, because although everyone in the test sees a few questions that feel like literal copies from UWorld, most of the stuff that shows up are questions on the same topics, but with totally different twists. So sure, maybe a similar stem, maybe similar options, but a totally different perspective, and some spin-offs that you did not see coming. And so if all you focus on is memorizing one spin-off, that is the one present in UWorld or AMBOSS, your ability to answer all the other versions stays exactly the same. So instead of trying so hard to memorize the questions, try to become the one who can answer any question. Because think about it, if you get a question right just because you've seen it before, maybe you're getting it right not because you learned the lesson and you dominate the topic, but rather because your mind just remembers that it was the option that said something about, I don't know, HLA, let's say. But if you get a totally different question, a totally new case on the same topic, and you get it right, you can be sure that you actually learned, because you were able to use the abstract concepts to guide you through a new scenario. That is true learning. But in any case, those were the 3 things surrounding the USMLE mindset that helped me in my journey. Now, I would like to know which rules of thumb helped you in this journey, so leave them below in the comments if you have any. For now, that was it. Thanks for tuning in, and as always, I'll see you guys in the next video.